We've largely talked about face-to-face mentoring. So what is e-mentoring and how useful is it? That's what we're going to explore in this session. So the objectives for this session are that at the end you'll be able to identify the need for e-mentoring, assess the differences between face-to-face mentoring and e-mentoring, and evaluate the effectiveness of e-mentoring. There are many names given to this type of mentoring. Here are the most common ones found by Berima and Hill. There's e-mentoring, computer-mediated mentoring, tele-mentoring, email mentoring, internet mentoring, online mentoring, and virtual mentoring. E-mentoring is using computer resources to carry out the mentoring, and in that way email is largely used. David Clutterbuck starts his chapter on e-mentoring with this statement: I have to admit, a converted skeptic about mentoring at a distance. Having invested so much time and research into the virtues of face-to-face development dialogue, I could not see how the mentoring relationship could possibly be as meaningful when the primary form of communication was email. Experience as an e-mentor and interviews with participants' successful e-mentoring relationships have convinced me that e-mentoring is not an inferior substitute for real mentoring. Rather, it's simply a different approach to mentoring and can be as effective and in some cases potentially more effective than traditional approaches. It's an interesting statement that begs the question, is e-mentoring a tool to use when traditional mentoring is not possible because of logistical or time constraints, or is it a development tool that should be considered equally to traditional mentoring? Here is a summary made by Kirk and Longer in their study of moving from traditional to virtual mentoring. Virtual mentoring they see as communicating via the computer, and that the mentoring is asynchronous. That time is not a major issue, location is not an issue, and there's no personal touch, and that it can be very inexpensive to do. It's recorded so it can't be confidential. And the difference that they see from that to traditional mentoring is that traditional mentoring is communicating face-to-face, that the mentoring is synchronous, that time can be a major issue, that location can be an issue. It's all about personal touch. It can be very expensive, and it's not recorded, so it can be confidential. So based on the previous slide and your own thinking, here is an exercise to get you started thinking about the advantages and disadvantages of e-mentoring. Write down your answers. Here are some answers that you may have thought of. Firstly, with e-mentoring, the mentoring can be carried out without the need for travel for either party, and despite the distance between the mentor and the client. This also means that they don't have to be in the same place at the same time, so the client can write an email at one time and the mentor reply later when it's more convenient for them. It is asynchronous communication. With e-mentoring, there is potentially a much greater pool of mentors to choose from. The mentor and client do not have to be situated near each other. This also means that the client can choose from experts all over the world and very specialised in their own particular field. Emails allow both mentor and client to take more time over replies, and so allows for more considered thoughts on both sides. Linked to this is the fact that because emails are written, then it's possible to go over conversations and look back on what was being said in the past. And that's not possible with face-to-face communication. There are some people who find it easier to have more difficult conversations by email because they're distanced from the person. Research has found that the person's attitude to computers can have a big impact on their acceptance of e-mentoring. So those who enjoy emails and social networking are found to enjoy e-mentoring much more. E-mentoring does mean that each person can access information much more easily through attachments, hyperlinks and so on. And with traditional mentoring meetings, they may take place, say, once a month. With e-mentoring, the time between communications can be far less. So what other advantages did you find? So what of disadvantages? Well, some fairly obvious disadvantages are that the mentor and the client need to be computer literate and have access to computers. This is increasingly less of a problem in organisations. The main disadvantage of e-mentoring is that neither party can see or hear the other, and so they miss out on all the valuable information that can bring to relationship. This may lessen the richness of the communication and may make it less easy to build rapport. As we are 40 years plus into emails, though, people have found some ways of compensating for this, using things such as emoticons, and the ways they use language and matching style of writing and words, etc. Some mentoring programs like to start with a face-to-face meeting and then e-mentoring, or having a combination throughout for this reason. It's been found that frequent emails are needed to maintain the relationship. Matching mentor and client may not be so easy because the matching is usually solely based on written information. Email is recorded and so can lead to issues of confidentiality, particularly in organisations that track emails for misuse, etc. And finally, training for clients and mentors may not be as easy because of the distance between them. What disadvantages did you think of? What ways of overcoming these disadvantages can you think of?